The birth of the family vlogger genre came just a few years after YouTube was established in 2005 and has long since courted controversy. From allegations of child exploitation to very real cases of recorded child abuse, there is something to be said for those who view family channels with an element of skepticism. In 2017, the now infamous DaddyOFive channel came under fire for showing repeated abuse of a young boy under the guise of playing pranks. Internet outrage grew so big that eventually the parents who owned the channel, Mike and Heather Martin, were charged with 2 counts of child neglect. They subsequently entered an Alford plea and were given 5 years of supervised probation. As if this case weren't awful enough, in 2020, a new family channel was put under the microscope when clips about the children's punishments went viral, leaving many to question the ethics and morals behind family vlogging as a whole. Ruby Griffiths was born in Utah in 1982 and was one of 4 sisters. She met Kevin Franke, an engineering professor at Brigham Young University, shortly after entering adulthood, and the pair quickly tied the knot and gave birth to their first child, Shari, born in 2003. 5 more children followed afterwards, with the youngest being born in 2013. The family were devout members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, with Ruby later stating that her social media presence allowed her to share her beliefs in a way that they normally wouldn't. In 2015, Ruby began documenting the lives of herself, her husband, and their children on the YouTube channel 8 Passengers. Over the years, the family's regular vlogs garnered them more than 2 million subscribers and around 1 billion views. On the surface, the Frankes seemed like another ordinary American family, and the initial criticisms were mostly about the children's lack of privacy. They often filmed their children's first shaves, and even recorded a shopping trip where one of their daughters was looking to buy a bra. Critics found this content to be exploitative and unnecessary, especially when teamed with such clickbait titles and thumbnails. Many suggested that this type of content would draw in individuals with more nefarious intentions. Over the next few weeks, fresh vlogs revealed that several of the Franke children did not have any friends. 2 of the older children also noted that they did not have access to their mobile phones in over a year. Before long, everyday viewers grew concerned about Ruby's overly harsh disciplinary methods, and their worries grew so loud that 8 Passengers became exposed to a much wider range of internet commenters. Massive commentary channels, ranging from Jay Aubrey to Swoop to H3H3, began covering the now viral clips of Ruby discussing her children's lack of food and proper beds, both of which she saw as fitting punishments for petty issues the children had apparently caused. Notably, Ruby was no stranger to cease and desist letters, as she sent out multiple to commentary channels at this time, including to YouTubers Ready to Glare and Sloan. One of the most notable instances of Ruby's so-called punishments was when her 6-year-old daughter turned up to school with no lunch. When she was contacted by the girl's teacher and asked to drop something off, Ruby refused. She claimed that it was the 6-year-old's responsibility to pack her own lunch in the morning, and said that going hungry throughout the day would be a punishment, which would help her daughter remember that she needed to make lunch for herself. Ruby added that she asked that her daughter not be given anything to eat by the school or her peers. In various other clips, Ruby can be seen telling 2 of her children that if they don't behave, they will not be allowed to eat dinner, threatening to behead one child's plush toy, and even, at one point, claiming that Santa wouldn't be visiting the 2 children that year because they were not responding to other forms of punishment. According to AP News, some of those other forms of punishment included being kept home from school and being forced to clean the floorboards. Ruby reportedly stated, quote, "It's because they're so numb, and the more numb your child is, the bigger the outcome they need to wake them up." Another controversial disciplinary measure carried out by Kevin and Ruby was when they sent their eldest son, who was 14 at the time, to a desert camp named the Anasazi Foundation Wilderness Program. The foundation's website states that parents who find it difficult to communicate with their children may find benefits in sending them to this wilderness camp, noting, quote, "We offer an opportunity to significantly improve their relationship through a walking in the wilderness." The foundation, a non-profit organization headquartered in Arizona, was founded in 1988 and reportedly aims to give troubled teens a chance to heal at the hands of nature. It offers not only the wilderness camp, but also several other resources for parents, including parent seminars. The wilderness program saw the Franks' eldest son be sent away from home for 10 weeks while living in the Arizona desert. According to Kevin, the idea with wilderness therapy is if you can survive with these peers in the wilderness with nothing more than the clothes on your back and a couple of field supplies, then there's nothing in this world you can't tackle. Ruby added that out in the desert, there were real threats, including snakes, bears, and cougars, stating, "I think close encounters would be good for him." Notably, the parents never revealed what their son had done that was so extreme they had resorted to sending him to a wilderness camp for difficult youths for over 2 months, away from everything and everyone he knew. The Franks' eldest son, though, wasn't out of the woods yet. In a later video, when he was 15, it was revealed that he had lost access to his bedroom and been forced to sleep on a beanbag in the living room for 7 months after he played several pranks on his younger brother, including telling him they were going to Disneyland in the early hours of the morning, causing the younger sibling to pack a suitcase and head out to the car, and subsequently burst into tears when it was revealed the holiday wasn't happening. On a separate occasion, he pointed a BB gun at this same sibling's face. This string of out-of-proportion, cruel, and unnecessary punishments, including ritualized starvation, led to several exposés being created by the commentary community. But these critical videos are not without justification. Experts have noted that such severe discipline often does far more harm than good. Psychologist Marian Barker spoke with Business Insider about the issues surrounding the harsh punishment of children, stating, quote, "It is simply concerned with getting the child to conform to a set of predetermined, often poorly communicated, and ever-changing set of goalposts, so the child is almost doomed to fail. Children make choices with their behavior based on their emotions, and if you don't seek to understand and discuss these emotions, the child ends up storing up a host of resentment and anger at the very least. Worse," she added, "children can develop issues with self-worth and abandonment. Taking a child's bed is considered one of the worst forms of punishment a parent can dole out, as everyone seeks safety in their environment, and taking away the bed, quote, strips this out entirely and actually leaves the child in trauma." Likely due to the scandal in 2021, the 8 Passengers channel began to decline in popularity, and uploads became less frequent. Kevin told the media that the backlash the family had received over their punishment tactics had also led them to losing brand deals and sponsorships. Eventually, the channel was deleted altogether, and in its place, in June 2022, Connections was established. This new channel was designed to give and share family and parenting advice. Several years earlier, in 2019, Ruby had met Jodie Hilderbrandt after she counseled one of the Frank children. Following this, Ruby hired Hilderbrandt as her personal mentor. She later stated that Hildebrandt's teachings had led her to view a warped version of the world, claiming, "I was led to believe this world was an evil place, filled with cops who control, hospitals that injure, government agencies that brainwash, church leaders who lie and lust, husbands who refuse to protect, and children who need abuse." Jodie Hilderbrandt was born in June 1969 and studied English literature at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, before achieving a master's degree in educational psychology from the University of Utah. After university, Hildebrand worked as the program director for a drug rehabilitation facility in Utah and became a licensed counselor in 2005. 2 years later, she established Connections, which was described then as a relationship and business counseling company. However, Hildebrand has had a less than stellar track record during her career. In 2012, she was put on probation for 18 months after disclosing sensitive, confidential information about a former client to the LDS Church and Brigham Young University several years earlier. She claimed that the patient had serious issues, but never formally diagnosed him, and reportedly didn't even spend enough time with the patient to figure out what was going on. Furthermore, in 2010, a teen living with Hildebrand, described as her niece, reported her to the police after being forced to sleep outside in a sleeping bag and having duct tape placed over her mouth. The teen also described being made to wear the same clothes for weeks on end, and investigators discovered that the girl was not enrolled in school. The teenager told officers, "Jodie is some kind of therapist and thinks she has all the answers, but Jodie insults me all the time in front of others and acts like I am evil by not letting me talk to kids or others." Neighbors recalled that in 2020, the Franke family first moved to Springville. Initially, they interacted with their local church and the children befriended others their own age. But as the years passed, the children were eventually removed from school. Around the same time as Connections came into play, Ruby and Kevin separated, with Kevin moving out of the family home in August 2022. The children were frequently left home alone from this point on, and eventually, the blinds were left permanently closed and paper was placed over the windows. Both neighbors and the oldest Franke daughter, who was now at university, repeatedly tried to involve the police, but their requests that the children be checked on often led nowhere, as the children never answered the door. The audience Hildebrand and Ruby had on Connections was not nearly as large and loyal as it had been on the 8 Passengers channel. Ruby also created a new Instagram account as part of her work with Connections, called Moms of Truth, which, similarly to Connections, offered parenting advice. On the Instagram account, Ruby stated that followers should avoid what she referred to as coping strategies. These coping strategies included social media, exercise, and socializing. Unsurprisingly, many people, including other parents, found the strategies that Connections taught to be extreme and harsh, with some critics likening the program to a cult. NBC News reported that several former clients said Hildebrandt's techniques were based in the LDS faith, and that she used an extreme approach that included shaming her clients. Connections branded itself as a support group designed for mothers, intended to help treat those lost in the darkness of a distortion. Together, Ruby and Hildebrand created video content that taught things including parents shouldn't love their children unconditionally, or that children don't deserve privacy. The pair were also accused of being homophobic, transphobic, ableist, and racist in this content. Everything in Ruby's life turned upside down when she and Hildebrand were arrested in Urbans, Utah on August 30th, 2023, on suspicion of child abuse. Shortly before their arrest, Ruby's youngest son, now 12, climbed out of a window in the home he and his siblings shared with Hildebrand and ran to a neighbor's house. He asked for food and water, and the neighbor was alarmed to discover duct tape on the boy's ankles and wrists. They promptly alerted the police. Arrest records later stated that he was taken to the hospital and treated for deep lacerations from being tied up with rope, as well as malnourishment. His 9-year-old sister, Ruby's youngest daughter, was also rescued from the scene and found to be malnourished. The 2 remaining children in the house were taken into custody of Child Protection Services. Ruby's youngest son told police that Hildebrand would put cayenne pepper and honey on their wounds, which were caused by being tied with a rope. Inside the home, investigators discovered sellotape, saran wrap, lots of paperwork, 2 super absorbent dressings, 2 Coban bandages, 3 sets of brown and white rope, 2 pairs of handcuffs, and 3 carabiners. Further information documented in the arrest record showed that Ruby had filmed a video in Hilderbrandt's house just days earlier, meaning she was very aware of the abuse her children were suffering. She was denied bail following her arrest, given the state of her children and the fact that investigators still needed to speak with them. Both Ruby and Hildebrandt were subsequently charged with 6 felony counts of aggravated child abuse. During a shelter hearing about Ruby's 4 youngest children, her 2 oldest children had not been living at home at the time of the abuse, she made the bizarre allegation that one of the children had been sexually abusing a younger sibling and had allegedly confessed to sexually abusing others. In mid-December, Ruby's lawyers claimed she was a devoted mother as they looked to secure a plea deal. They claimed that Hildebrandt had taken advantage of the mother of 6, noting, quote, "Over an extended period, Hildebrandt systematically isolated Ruby Franke from her extended family, older children, and her husband, Kevin Franke. This prolonged isolation resulted in Ms. Franke being subjected to a distorted sense of morality, shaped by Hildebrandt's influence." A statement filed with the court to support her guilty pleas revealed that Ruby had abused her children from May 22, 2023, up until her arrest. She claimed that the punishments were a form of repentance and described her actions as acts of love. She also admitted that her actions involved physical torture. She sent her 12-year-old son to carry out demanding manual labor without shoes or water, leaving him with damaging sunburn. Furthermore, the boy was given little food and was often given plain meals, while everyone else got different, more flavorful dishes compared to him. Ruby also admitted to kicking the young boy while wearing boots, holding his head underwater, and hog-tying him. He was kept isolated with no entertainment. Ruby's youngest daughter didn't fare better. She was also forced to work outside, run on dirt roads without shoes for lengthy periods of time, and was starved and not given water. Both children were declined beds and had their heads shaved as punishment. In her diaries, Ruby referred to the children as spawns of Satan, and of her son stated, quote, "I will not feed a demon." She also called him a compulsive liar with a cold, dead heart. As for her youngest daughter, she wrote that she was manipulative and recounted the time she had had her stand in the rain for hours, cut off her hair, and once doused her in dog wash water after she complained about being hungry. Prosecutors later noted in a statement, "The women appeared to fully believe that the abuse they inflicted was necessary to teach the children how to properly repent for imagined sins and to cast the evil spirits out of their bodies." Both Ruby and Hildebrandt were deemed to be motivated by religious extremism. Ruby's husband, Kevin, reported that he had not seen his children for around 13 months since he and his wife had separated, and that he had no idea about the abuse that was happening. He added that Hildebrandt played a role in the couple's marriage disintegrating, claiming that she manipulated him and destroyed his family, as the relationship between Kevin and Ruby grew strained after she began working on connections. Ruby reportedly told her husband before he left that though their marriage needed work, it would be better if he moved out and ceased contact with his 4 youngest children. Notably, following her mother's arrest, the oldest Franke child, Sherry, who was 20 at the time and studying at university, posted a picture on her Instagram stories of police officers at Hildebrandt's house, simply captioned, "Finally." Shari had said in an April 2023 podcast that she had cut ties with her family a year earlier after she discovered that her mother was working on connections with Hildebrandt. In another Instagram post, she wrote, "Me and my family are so glad justice is being served. We've been trying to tell the police and CPS for years about this, and so glad they finally decided to step up. Kids are safe, but there's a long road ahead." Ruby's 3 sisters, who all have YouTube channels themselves, released a statement which claimed that they had been keeping quiet about Ruby for several years for the sake of her children, noting, quote, "Behind the public scene, we have done everything we could to try and make sure the kids were safe. Ruby was arrested, which needed to happen. Jodie was arrested, which needed to happen. The kids are now safe, which is the #1 priority." Following Ruby's arrest, Kevin began seeking custody of his children and filed for divorce. He also attempted to get his eldest daughter, Shari, arrested for stealing electronics and passports 2 days after the arrests, stating that she was not lawfully allowed in their home. Shari claimed she was not aware that she was not allowed into her parents' home, and Kevin allegedly threatened to sue the police department because they declined to press charges against her. Ruby ultimately pled guilty to 4 counts of child abuse in December 2023 and was given 4 1 to 15-year sentences in prison. Hildebrand received the same sentence, and they will both serve them consecutively. Due to a Utah law that caps the sentence duration for consecutive penalties, they will only serve 30 years max in prison, despite their sentences totaling a maximum of 60 years. At the sentencing, Hildebrand simply stated, "I sincerely loved those children. One of the reasons I didn't go to trial is because I didn't want them to relive this. I desire for them to heal physically and emotionally." The prosecution didn't buy it. They described her as a risk to the community and noted her lack of remorse where her actions were concerned. Ruby, meanwhile, while pleading guilty, stated, "With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty." At the sentencing hearing, she added, "I'll never stop crying for hurting your tender souls. My willingness to sacrifice all for you was masterfully manipulated into something very ugly. I took from you all that was soft and safe and good." About Hildebrand, she stated, "I was led to believe the world was an evil place. For the past 4 years, I have chosen to follow counsel and guidance that have led me to a dark delusion." And there you have the facts. Please leave a comment below with your own thoughts and reactions, and remember to like this video and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.